Beloved, in this moment of pain, confusion, and silent battles, may the presence of the Almighty overshadow you. There are seasons when life presses you so deeply that you don't even know what to pray. But this is the moment where heaven draws near. This is the moment where the strength of God becomes your refuge. Wherever you are listening from, I decree that the hand of God will locate you now. Every burden that has weighed on your heart, every fear that has stolen your sleep, every situation that has whispered defeat, may the power of God rise above it right now. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. The same God who lifted men from pits, who restored broken lives, who turned tears into testimonies, that same God is about to intervene in your situation. As you open your heart, may a fresh wind of hope, strength, and divine courage begin to fill you. This prayer is not just words, it is an atmosphere, a mantle of help, a river of strength flowing toward you in this difficult moment. When you pray now, chains will break. When you pray now, heaviness will lift. When you pray now, the God who answers by fire will arise for you. Prepare your heart, help is coming. There are moments in life when darkness feels closer than light, when uncertainty presses on every side, and when the heart silently wonders if God still sees, still hears, still cares. In these deep waters, the greatest deception is the feeling of abandonment. That sense that your prayers rise like smoke but return without answer, that the heavens seem silent, that every step forward feels like sinking sand. Yet it is in these very moments that the presence of God becomes the most profound, even when it is not immediately felt. God has never measured his nearness by our emotions. He measures it by his covenant. Your tears may distort your view. Your pain may cloud your discernment, but the faithfulness of God does not shift. He does not withdraw when battles intensify. He does not step back when the storms rise. In fact, scripture shows that the deeper the waters, the closer God stands. Every person who ever encountered the transforming power of God met him in difficult terrain, in wildernesses, in prisons, in lions' dens, in fiery furnaces, in lonely caves. God does not avoid heavy seasons. He steps into them when life presses you into that uncomfortable corner where you can no longer pretend to be strong. God reveals that his presence does not depend on perfect circumstances. Sometimes he hides in the chaos so that you learn to hear his whisper above the noise. Sometimes he waits until every human support fails, so you finally recognize the arm that has been carrying you all along. When the heart becomes overwhelmed, the divine becomes near. The truth is, deep waters are not a punishment. They are a meeting place. God does not waste storms. He uses them as classrooms of trust and intimacy. When everything familiar disappears, when the path ahead is unclear, he trains your spirit to lean, to depend, to recognize his voice more clearly than the fear around you. The storms that threaten to drown you often carry the very revelation that will anchor you in the future. God does not abandon those in deep waters. He accompanies them, guides them, and shapes them through the experience. Many times, the reason you feel abandoned is not because God left, but because he is drawing you into a deeper dimension of trust where your eyes must shift from visible evidence to spiritual assurance. It is easy to believe when the sky is clear, when doors open, when prayers are answered quickly, but true faith is forged in the midnight hours when nothing makes sense, when strength is gone, when the only thing you can say is, God, I still trust you. In those moments, heaven is watching, angels are present, and God is closer than your breath. If you look back at your life, you will realize that some of the most painful seasons were also the ones that shaped you the most. They taught endurance, they refined character, they forced growth, they removed unnecessary attachments, and they deepened your understanding of God. Many times, the presence of God is disguised as pressure. You may not feel the warmth of his hand, but you are being carried. You may not hear a loud voice, but guidance is taking place. You may not see a way out, but a path is being carved. Never interpret the silence of God as his absence. Silence is often the language of deep work, the atmosphere in which destiny is formed. And while your emotions may scream that you are alone, heaven stands as a witness that you are surrounded. God never abandons those in deep waters. He meets them there. He strengthens them there, and he brings them out with a story that becomes a testimony for generations. There comes a point in every person's journey where human strength reaches its limit. No matter how determined, disciplined, or resilient you are, life has a way of pushing you into moments where your own might is no longer enough. This is not failure. This is not weakness. This is the intersection where the divine begins its work. Every time you exhaust your human strength, you are standing at the edge of supernatural intervention. God has never intended for you to carry life on your shoulders alone. Your limitations are not a disadvantage. They are signals that grace is ready to take over. Human strength was designed to bring you only so far. Beyond that point, something greater must step in. Many people misinterpret this transition point as defeat. They cry, they worry, they panic, believing that the end of their strength means the end of their journey. But heaven sees it differently. God waits for that moment, because it is only when the noise of self-sufficiency quiets that your heart becomes fully available for divine empowerment. When you can no longer push, when you can no longer fight, when you can no longer explain how to fix what is broken, that is when God steps forward with a strength that does not grow weary. Your weakness is not a burden to God, it is an invitation. He is drawn to the places you cannot repair. He is attracted to the areas where you admit, I can't do this alone. The supernatural does not flow into areas where the human is still sufficient. It flows where surrender creates room for heaven. Think about it. If you could solve everything on your own, you would never discover the depth of God's power. You would never learn the mystery of depending on something greater than yourself. You would never understand how powerful grace truly is. So God allows your strength to run out, not to break you, but to position you. Many times, life teaches us that strength means enduring silently, forcing ourselves to push harder, pretending we are fine even when our soul is collapsing. But divine strength works differently. It does not demand that you pretend. It does not require that you exhaust yourself trying to be invincible. Divine strength begins when you acknowledge your need. It begins the moment you say, God, I cannot carry this anymore. That confession is not defeat, it is alignment. It is the point where heaven pours out strength that does not depend on sleep, energy, motivation, or emotion. When God strengthens a person, something inside them becomes unexplainably resilient. It is not confidence rooted in self. It is confidence rooted in knowing that the creator of the universe is sustaining you. People may look at you and wonder how you are still standing, how you are still smiling, how you are still believing, how you are still fighting. But the truth is, it was not your strength that kept you. It was divine empowerment that lifted you above the weight of what should have crushed you. There are seasons when life breaks you open so that the strength of God can flow in. Your tears may fall, your voice may tremble, your heart may feel tired, but heaven is not intimidated by your vulnerability. In fact, it is in those fragile moments that God releases his greatest power. His strength is not loud, but it is steady. It does not always feel dramatic, but it is unshakable. It helps you rise when everything inside you wants to collapse. It gives you courage when fear whispers defeat. It carries you through nights when sleep refuses to come, and through days when you feel like you have nothing left to give. So when your strength ends, do not fear. You are not collapsing. You are transitioning. You are stepping out of the realm of the human and into the realm of the divine. And in that realm, God does not strengthen you to survive. He strengthens you to overcome. Life has a mysterious way of applying pressure at the exact moments when you least expect it. One day, everything seems stable. predictable, manageable, and the next day winds rise, battles intensify, and the weight on your shoulders becomes heavier than anything you have carried before. At first, pressure feels like punishment. It feels like something is going wrong, like the universe is resisting you, like heaven is silent. But what most people never realize is that pressure is often the environment God chooses to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary breakthroughs. Nothing great is ever born in comfort. Every victory, every elevation, every testimony carries the fingerprints of a season where pressure tried to break you, but God used it to make you. When the heat increases in your life, it is not always a sign of danger. Sometimes it is a sign of divine activity. Pressure has a way of exposing what needs to be removed, strengthening what needs to endure, and preparing what needs to emerge. Diamonds are formed under immense pressure. Seeds grow only after being buried. Oil flows only when olives are crushed. And breakthroughs often come from situations that look like breaking points. What threatens to destroy you is frequently the same thing God uses to lift you. The discomfort you feel is not the end, it is the beginning of transformation. Many of the moments that frustrated you, disappointed you, or stretched you were actually divine setups. They pushed you to pray deeper, to think differently, to let go of what you outgrew, to trust God in ways you never trusted before. Pressure forces decisions. Pressure reveals strength you never knew you had. Pressure exposes the false supports you were leaning on. It shows you what is temporary and reveals what is eternal. The very situation you want to escape may be the very situation God is using to position you for something greater and the beautiful. Mystery is this: God never allows pressure to crush his people, only to shape them. Even when you feel like the walls are closing in, heaven is supervising the process. God knows exactly how much weight your heart can handle. He sees every tear, every silent prayer, every night you couldn't sleep. He sees the urgency, the fear, the questions you are too tired to articulate. And while you feel the pressure on the outside, God is working on the inside. He is strengthening you, maturing you, sharpening you, purifying your motives, and preparing your steps. Sometimes the reason pressure increases is because breakthrough is near. The closer a woman is to giving birth, the more intense the pain becomes. The closer the sunrise gets, the darker the night appears. The more powerful the miracle, the more intense the preparation often is. Pressure is not always a sign that something is ending. It is often a sign that something is about to begin. You may not see it yet, but heaven is orchestrating a shift. Something is aligning. Something is opening. Something is changing, not just around you, but inside you. And when God finally turns pressure into breakthrough, the testimony becomes undeniable. You will look back and realize that the seasons you wanted to escape were the seasons that carried your elevation. The prayers you prayed in desperation became the foundation for your transformation. The nights you cried became the soil where God planted strength. And the moments that made you question everything became the same moments that introduced you to the power, faithfulness, and precision of God. So do not curse the pressure. Do not despise the season. Do not assume your story is collapsing. What you call pressure, heaven calls preparation. God is not using this moment to break you. He's using it to build you, to mold you, and to usher you into a breakthrough that will silence every storm and rewrite your destiny. There are moments in life when storms rise so violently that they drown out every sense of direction. The mind becomes overwhelmed, the heart becomes unsettled, and the soul becomes restless. In such moments, confusion speaks louder than faith. Fear speaks louder than hope, and the noise of circumstances becomes almost deafening. Yet even in the middle of that chaos, there is always a voice that does not shout, a voice that does not panic, a voice that does not compete with the storm, but a voice that carries an authority the storm cannot ignore. It is the voice of divine peace, a voice that speaks from eternity into time, calming the environment within you, even before the environment around you changes. This voice is not always dramatic. Many times it comes as a gentle whisper, a thought that brings clarity, a scripture that suddenly shines brighter, a sense of comfort that seems to appear from nowhere, a quiet assurance that settles your emotions. It is the voice that says, "Be still," not because the storm is gone, but because God is present. And whenever God is present, no storm has the right to control your destiny. Even when the winds rage against you, heaven releases a peace that cannot be explained, only experienced. This divine peace does not deny the realities of life. It does not pretend the pain is not real or the battle is not intense. Rather, it stands above the chaos, speaking order into confusion and stability into instability. The storms of life are designed to intimidate you, to overwhelm you, to distract you. But the voice of peace is designed to anchor you, to steady you, to remind you that your life is not governed by the noise around you, but by the God within you. When you learn to listen for that voice, storms lose their power to paralyze you. One of the greatest tests of spiritual maturity is the ability to remain calm when everything around you is shaking. Anyone can walk in peace when life is predictable. But divine peace is proven in the nights when your heart is racing, your mind is full, and answers seem far away. It is in those moments that the Spirit of God rises within you and whispers truths that silence the storm's authority over your emotions. Sometimes the storm outside may remain, but the storm inside must obey the voice of heaven. There are situations where God does not immediately remove the battle, but he removes the fear. He may not silence the wind right away, but he silences the inner trembling that keeps you from thinking clearly and trusting deeply. When you walk through such seasons, you learn that peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is the presence of God. And the presence of God becomes stronger the moment you choose to listen rather than fear, to trust rather than panic, to stand rather than collapse. Every storm you face has two voices. One amplifies your fear, the other strengthens your faith. One tells you the situation is impossible. The other reminds you that nothing is too hard for God. One pushes you toward anxiety, the other pulls you toward assurance. Breakthrough begins the moment you shift your attention from the noise of circumstances to the whisper of divine peace. That whisper carries authority, it carries clarity, it carries strength. And as you follow that voice, a strange thing happens. The storm inside dies even before the storm outside does. You begin to feel a calmness that makes no sense, a courage you did not have before. A confidence that rises from a place deeper than logic. It is the supernatural peace that surpasses understanding. And once that peace enters your heart, no storm, no matter how violent, can dictate your destiny. This voice, quiet yet powerful, will always speak above every storm, guiding you safely until the winds cease and the clouds part once again. Every battle you face in life is never fought alone. Even when it feels like you are standing with no help, no support, and no visible strength around you. One of the greatest hidden realities of the spiritual realm is that battles attract divine attention. The moment pressure increases, the moment your heart becomes troubled, the moment the enemy rises against your destiny, heaven begins to mobilize help. God does not watch his children enter warfare without reinforcement. Even when your physical eyes cannot see it, the spiritual realm becomes active with movement, intervention, protection, and guidance. What appears to be a lonely fight is often surrounded by angelic presence that fights silently on your behalf. There are battles you survived, not because you were strong, but because unseen hands lifted you. There were days You should have collapsed under the weight of what you were facing. But somehow strength appeared. There were decisions you were about to make that could have destroyed your life, yet something gently redirected your steps. There were accidents that never happened, dangers you never saw, attacks that never reached you, because the armies of heaven stepped between you and the threat. Angels do not always announce themselves. They operate quietly, efficiently, and perfectly in alignment with God's assignment over your life. When a believer enters a difficult moment, that moment activates a response from heaven. Spiritual battles require spiritual backup, and God never allows you to confront warfare greater than the help assigned to you. If your battle is intense, your reinforcement is greater. If your storm is loud, the intervention prepared is stronger. If your path feels dark, then more light has been dispatched. God knows the weight of your destiny, and he ensures that the protection around you matches the purpose you carry. But often we forget this truth because we measure battles by what we see. We assume we are fighting alone because our natural senses cannot perceive the activity of the supernatural. Yet throughout history, in scripture and in personal experience, God has always sent help in times of warfare. Sometimes his help comes through people who appear at just the right moment. Sometimes it comes through sudden clarity, unexpected favor, or a door that opens without explanation. Sometimes it comes through inner strength that rises from nowhere, giving you courage you did not think you had. And sometimes it comes through peace that shields your mind from collapsing under fear. God also assigns angels specifically to guard your destiny. These divine beings are not mythical or symbolic. They are real, purposeful, and deeply involved in your journey. They war against forces that try to delay your progress. They block attacks meant to destroy your future. They push back darkness that attempts to overwhelm your mind. They whisper direction when confusion tries to suffocate your discernment. Your battles may look physical: financial struggles, emotional turmoil, relational tension, career blockages. But behind many of these moments are spiritual forces seeking to weaken your faith and steal your peace. And behind you are angelic warriors ensuring that the enemy does not win. This is why you are still standing. This is why what was meant to break you did not break you. This is why the enemy's plans failed again and again. The help of God has been surrounding you, defending you, fighting for you, even in moments you did not pray or understand what was happening. Your survival is proof that heaven has been involved in your journey. So when you face battles now, do not panic. Do not assume God has stepped away. Often your greatest battles are the ones that activate the greatest angelic intervention. And when God sends help, it is never late, never weak, never uncertain. It arrives with precision. It arrives with authority. It arrives with victory already woven into it. You may feel the pressure of the fight, but you are never fighting alone. Heaven stands with you, and the armies of God are always present, always active, and always committed to your victory. There are seasons in life when pain comes without warning, when doors close without explanation, and when life pushes you into transitions you never asked for. In those moments, it is easy to believe something has gone wrong, that you are being punished, or that life is falling apart. But many of the painful moments you experience are not endings. They are transitions. They are the uncomfortable bridges God uses to carry you from one season to another, from one dimension of maturity to a higher one, from who you were to who you must become. Growth is rarely gentle. Transformation is rarely comfortable. And elevation is rarely convenient. God uses painful chapters as preparation for the chapters that require more strength, more wisdom, more resilience, and more depth. What you call a breaking season, heaven often calls a building season. The disappointment that wounded you, the betrayal that shocked you, the setback that frustrated you, the delay that discouraged you. Each of these experiences carries within it a hidden assignment. Pain stretches your capacity. Loss rearranges your priorities. Transition purifies your motives. Hardship forces you to release what you were never meant to hold. And when God is shifting you into a higher season, He often begins by allowing the old season to become uncomfortable. You outgrow certain people, certain places, certain patterns, certain beliefs, not because they were bad, but because your destiny requires more than what the old season can offer. Nothing transforms a person like pain. Success teaches skills, but struggle teaches character. Comfort teaches nothing, but adversity teaches everything. Pain exposes what you truly believe. It reveals the strength of your faith, the depth of your trust, and the stability of your foundation. Some lessons cannot come through blessings. They only come through brokenness. And God, in His wisdom, allows certain experiences not to harm you, but to elevate you. He is more committed to your destiny than to your temporary comfort. And sometimes elevation requires disruption. There are times when God closes doors you would have never closed, removes people you would have never removed, and interrupts plans you would have held on to forever. It feels cruel in the moment, but later you realize that He was saving you from paths that would have restricted your growth or limited your purpose. Growth requires separation. Elevation requires disconnection. Transition requires courage to walk forward even when you cannot see what comes next. Pain becomes the signal that something new is being born, even if you cannot yet perceive it. Often, the reason the present season hurts is because you are being stretched into who you must become for the next one. You are developing endurance for the blessings ahead. You are learning discernment for the opportunities coming. You are gaining humility for the influence you will carry. You are shedding insecurity, fear, and dependency on validation because the next season requires a stronger version of you. God uses pain as a refining fire, not to burn you, but to remove what cannot go with you into the future He has prepared. And when the transition is complete, you will look back and understand what you could not see before. You will realize that the heartbreak realigned you. The delay protected you. The loss awakened you. The disappointment redirected you. The isolation strengthened you. The silence trained your spirit. The tears watered the ground of your future. Every painful moment was a step toward a higher season you were destined to enter. Nothing you endured was wasted. God is too intentional to allow random suffering in your story. Every hardship carried meaning, every struggle carried purpose, and every tear carried prophecy. You are not being destroyed, you are being developed. You are not being abandoned, you are being promoted. Difficult moments are not the end of your destiny, they are the doorway into the season you were created to walk into. And when God finishes His work, you will emerge stronger, wiser, purified, and prepared for a level of blessing and purpose that your previous season could not contain. In the end, every difficult moment you face is not a sign that God has withdrawn, nor a sign that your story is collapsing. It is a reminder that the journey of destiny is shaped through challenge, refined through pressure, strengthened through weakness, and elevated through transition. You have never walked alone, not even for a moment. In the unseen realm, God has been closer than your breath, nearer than your thoughts, and more present than the feelings that tried to convince you otherwise. The deep waters were not designed to drown you. They were designed to reveal how faithful God is. The breaking points you encountered were not the end. They were the beginning of supernatural strength flowing into your life. The storms that tried to shake you were silenced by a peace that only heaven could release. The battles that surrounded you activated the armies of God who fought for your destiny even when you didn't know how to fight for yourself. And the painful transitions that wounded you were not punishments, but pathways. Corridors leading you into a season that carries more purpose, more clarity, more maturity, and more grace than any season you have ever known. Your tears were seen. Your prayers were heard. Your silence was understood. and your endurance has not been wasted. There is nothing you survived that heaven will not use. There is nothing you walked through that God will not transform into wisdom, strength, and testimony. Even now, something within you is being restored, realigned, and renewed. You are emerging from this moment with a deeper strength, a sharper discernment, and a more anchored faith. This difficult moment is not your final chapter. It is the soil where God is planting the seeds of your next breakthrough. So lift your head again, breathe again, hope again, trust again. The same God who walked with you through the fire will bring you out of it with a story that will inspire many and a victory that will silence every doubt. You are being prepared, not punished. You are being elevated, not abandoned. And as you step forward into what comes next, may you carry the unshakable assurance that even in the hardest of seasons, God was working, and He is still working. Your moment of divine help has already begun.